Spider-Man, Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man.
All right, welcome back to the Elias Makos Show. I'm going to try and get you into a comics frame of mind because we've got a great story. You know, our last segment, we were talking about, big Quebec business and some success there. Now let's talk about maybe a smaller business, but also seeing a lot of success. In Montreal's Mile End, Lethal Comics is revolutionizing the comic book industry with a fan-funded, direct-to-consumer model. Co-founded by Andy Belanger, the company bypasses traditional publishers to create and ship comics from Montreal straight to readers. Andy Belanger is the brain behind it, one of the co-founders at Lethal Comics, and he's joined us in studio. Hi, Andy.
Hey, how you doing, Elias?
I'm doing fantastic.
Right,
and listen, we've been talking here for the last few minutes. I think you've got a wonderful, amazing story because you are originally from Toronto.
Yes, I'm just outside of Toronto. I grew up in KW, and then I lived downtown Toronto for a decade. I was part of the major comic book studio out there called Raid.
Okay.
And it was basically like a collective of, I think at one point, maybe like 10, 15 of us.
Yeah.
All sort of like little kids of Darwin Cook, who was like a very famous like Canadian cartoonist who worked for Bruce Timm on the Batman animated series and all that stuff. And we were sort of like working under him. And Raid was like an incredible time in Toronto.
So, and Toronto, big city.
Yeah.
A lot of English speakers as well. Big, large market. But, despite all that, you move to Montreal and say, I'm going to do what I love, but I'm going to do it in Montreal. Tell me about that decision and how that's worked out.
Oh, yeah. So moving to Montreal, I say just as a financial decision or mental health decision was the best thing I ever did. I mean, I ended up getting married and having a kiddo here, but it was basically half price of everything in Toronto. Mm-hmm. And as the rents doubled and increased, the attitudes of everyone became very, a little more desperate and a little rougher and colder. And I found the second I moved to Montreal, all of a sudden, and I would have to have different styles to my art. I'd have to have like something for magazines that you would have in the New Yorker. I'd have to do my comic book thing, something for kids' books, and because of all those different styles, no one knew what to hire me for. So when I moved to Montreal, I focused on the artist I wanted to be and could afford to be the artist I wanted to be, and then everything took off.
So it allowed you a little bit of focus, which I think would be amazing. And is Montreal just a better city for artists?
I think so, yes, because it's still affordability is important for the art community, but not just art, like music, culture, chefs, like everything. It's important to have a place that is still affordable, and Montreal is definitely a place of culture. I remember when I first moved here, in the first week, it was the summer, it was May, I think it was end of May, and I was walking from the plateau to my studio, and I noticed that the parks were full. Of people on a Tuesday, parks are full, and I was walking my dog in the morning, and then when I came back at night at 9:00, still full.
Yes.
Same people, and I was like, these people have lives
it's
in
a
Toronto.
Different, it's a different culture.
We're working 12 hours a day. What is this stuff?
You're in Toronto, those poor saps are on Bay Street all day. and here you're actually in the park. Okay, so Andy, listen, I don't know much about the comic book industry. Sure. Okay, I'll be very honest. Dumb radio host here. I'm thinking back in my day, right? I go to the store and I'm buying a DC, I'm buying a Marvel. There's my knowledge, right, of the comic book industry. You're doing things very differently. So why don't you guide our listeners here through this model, right, which direct-to-consumer, fan-funded. Tell our listeners just about how you do it at Lethal Comics.
Yeah, so what was happening is during COVID, there was a pencils down movement, and basically the publishers in the United States, Marvel, DC, Image, all of these publishers kind of shut down for a bit, but we're all freelance. Right? There is no salaries. I've been a freelance artist for 25 years, and you're a hunter. Yeah. I'm basically hunting for contracts nonstop, and those contracts are never very long. Even the guys that are on big Marvel DC books like Batman, Superman, all that kind of stuff, they're only there for a year or two before they got to find something else. So it was, a situation where we're all just out of work, and all the contracts fell through. So I got a quick video game thing that made me quite a bit of money doing animation. And then I was like, okay, what am I going to do with this comic book thing? And the other guy in Lethal Comics, my business partner called Kerschel, who's a famous comic book artist and arguably the most talented comic book artist I've ever met, who sits right beside me for the last 12 years. Carl was like, you should try this Kickstarter thing. So I tried Kickstarter, and like immediately we made,
and it worked.
Like gangbusters. But outside of production, the cost of production, I made probably double or triple what I would on the best rate at DC.
Isn't that interesting?
So it was my work.
Yeah.
I wasn't a custodian of these bigger characters.
Yeah.
It was unfiltered me. I was writing, drawing, creating, and I mean, yes, printing and shipping, the whole nine was me, but it was unfiltered, and fans could get like, what I wanted to create instead of what an editor at DC would want to create.
So at Lethal Comics, like if somebody's listening to us and they're also an artist and a creator, and they can come to Lethal to get their work published, like is it just you and the people at your studio?
Right now it's just the people at the studio, but we work as if we are like a music label.
Okay.
Right? So like Carl would be Metallica and I would be Megadeth, and we're all sort of like under the same umbrella, helping each other with the resources.
And
right?
Lethal Comics is the label.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, we're the label. So we handle all the resources when it comes to the crowdfunding and the printing and the shipping and all that kind of stuff. That's what we do.
Do you view the behemoths there, like DC and Marvel, do you view them as friend or foe now then?
They're still friend because it's a completely different market almost, right? We go right to the consumer. So we're not competing with like any of the stores or anything like that. Some of the stores do carry our work, right? But that's like a specialty thing. They have to order it separately, and we actually just ship our books to those stores.
So what's your creative process? And this is a lot, because you have all these franchises, right? And like, can you... I guess you have more liberty, right? Not to just focus on a franchise and, just one big name. So tell me about that creative process on how you produce your work.
Well, every creator in my situation, every artist or writer in my situation probably have like 10 to 20 stories that they've wanted to do over the years. Yeah. So we get because it's crowdfunded, we have the freedom of doing basically whatever we want. Comics do succeed based on, consistency. Yeah. So having more titles in the same sort of like brand, as you say, or same title. So we do Mother Trucker, we do Death Transit Tanager by Carl, and then we did a Psycho Gorman anthology based on the movie Psycho Gorman that came out of Toronto. And then we have another one, Outbreak Park, which is a zombie one that's going to be really fun. Okay. So those stories were sort of like, in our heads for years, and we're doing more. Like Carl and I are writing a ninja one right now. It's going to be really crazy.
Listen, I just want to touch on a couple of things here, because you were talking about a production a couple of times, and there's tariffs, and amazingly, this affects you. This is like, so tell me about how it's getting more and more difficult to print your comics.
Oh yeah, so any of the stuff with the tariffs, as in COVID, murder small business. So we have two things: the printing after COVID was twice as expensive, if not 3 times as expensive as what it was beforehand. And now shipping's going crazy. So shipping with the tariffs is going to be absolutely insane. We just finished shipping a bunch of projects, and we're shipping some more. And all the places that we ship through are kind of like emailing us going, okay, here it comes. And so I'm expecting double on printing, double, triple on shipping.
And for things that people have already paid you for?
Yes, of course. So
right?
I already have the money, but now
cost.
all of a sudden, so that happened in COVID. I did a project and I raised a certain amount of money, and then COVID happened, and all of those quotes I got at the beginning of the project I've now doubled and tripled. So this year, while I was shipping that project out, I'm out $20,000 in my own cash.
Andy, before I have to let you go, most of the time when we have guests come in the studio, they're in suits. They're a bunch of stiffs, politicians, right? You're not a stiff, and in fact, I don't. One of the few guests that have walked into the studio with a wrestling belt.
Yes.
So why don't you tell me what you came into the studio and it's this beautiful belt? You recently won something here. Tell me about that.
My wrestling handle is Animal Bob Anger, and my tag team partner is Sexy Eddie, and we are part of.
I went to Dawson College with Sexy Eddie. If it's the same Sexy Eddie, maybe there's new Sexy Eddie.
There is only one Sexy Eddie. Yeah. So that's hilarious. I'll tell him. Okay, so Sexy Eddie and I are tag partners, and we won the belts during a ladder war on Friday for IWS, which is probably the premier indie wrestling league in all of Canada. So
indie wrestling.
Yeah,
okay.
so we're like, it's not like WWE. We'll be like under that. So we are.
Well, the belt looks really official.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. Yeah.
So congratulations
Thank
to
you so
you and
much.
Eddie on the wrestling win. Just to wrap us up here, if our listeners want to check out Lethal Comics, how do they do so?
LethalComics.com is up and running and ready to rock. We have a YouTube show that's going to be starting at the end of the month based on Lethal Comics and comics from the 60s and 70s. It's going to be fantastic.
Andy, thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks.
Andy Belanger, co-founder of Lethal Comics. When we return on the Elias Makos Show, going to speak to one Quebecer advocating for change to help Canadians living with rare diseases. That's next.